Assalam. Hello and welcome everybody to this edition of TCN Talk. And this after yesterday's election results, we thought we should have a discussion about it because I mean it is a historic in many respects, and I think a lot of things have changed that we can see in the election results. So I think it's important that we discuss the election, try to understand it. I mean, data is still out there, and some analysis have been done, but a lot more analysis needs to be done. But I think it's important to have a discussion. On a lighter note, Friday को कांग्रेस की हजामत बनी और मैंने भी अपनी हजामत बना ली. मेरी लिटरली हजामत बनी है और कांग्रेस की figuratively. So now we're ready to begin. So first of all, I mean, nobody expected, at least, we were still thinking that it's all media hype and everything. And, even exit polls, historically have been wrong. So people were not believing, BJP is going to get that many seats. So we're definitely a bit surprised by the results that we saw. Um, so, so, that 282, I believe that, yeah, it's going to be 200, 220. And I think the big factor is definitely we knew that they're going to do better in UP. Lekin, winning 73 out of 80 seats, I mean, that's just nobody thought about that. It's a pretty clean sweep there. In fact, the other 7 seats, two have went to Congress, to Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, and the other 5 to just the Yadav family of Samajwadi Party. So it's pretty significant in that regard. And also, the performance of BJP in Bihar, I wasn't expecting that at all. So it's a surprise, and that made a lot of difference of BJP crossing 272, because I don't think even BJP was prepared for this, or they knew, even though they were talking about close to 300, which eventually they did. So what does that mean? As I have been arguing even before the poll results, that BJP growth just means that marginalization, political marginalization of Muslims, which has been true in other states that they have been governing, and now it has come true in UP, because UP Muslims have been totally wiped out. A few of them came second place, but none. First time it's that in this Lok Sabha that there will not be a Muslim member of parliament from Uttar Pradesh, which is significant, but it just something that we've been talking about for a while, which is now out in the focus. So that's one. That second point is also is that the number of Muslim MPs, we have to see that where they're coming from, and we see that 8 of them are from West Bengal, 4 from Bihar, 2 from Assam, 3 from Kerala, and 3 from Jammu Kashmir. So that also should mean a change in leadership, which I argued in that article that I posted yesterday. So let's open up for discussion and see what people are feeling, what the issues are, and and where we want to go next, and what should be the next steps of next 5 year of rule under Modi's government. So Riaz, maybe we'll begin with you. Talk about, I mean, this is West Bengal has sent the largest number of Muslim MPs to Lok Sabha. Last year it was, I mean, last Lok Sabha there were 7, and this year and the tally has improved to 8, which is significant. Almost 1/3 of the total number of Muslim MPs now come from West Bengal. So Riaz, go ahead. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's as you pointed out, it's significantly. I have not spent much time in Bengal, so I am not in a better position to.
Last year it was, I mean, last Lok Sabha there were 7, and this year the tally has improved to 8, which is significant. Almost one third. Somebody's watching on YouTube. Please mute yourself if you're not talking, and then unmute yourself so we can have a conversation. Yeah, but so Riaz, but you are familiar somewhat with the politics in West Bengal. I mean, so this year, I mean, Trinamool Congress. So one, two, three, three MPs from Trinamool, four MPs from Trinamool,
Two
I
from
think, and then we have Congress two
two from
and
Congress and two from the
CPM two.
CPM.
Yeah. So that's a significant development. That means also that all major parties in West Bengal are giving tickets to Muslim MPs, and they are winning from all parties. So it's not like you know which tells me that it's not like Muslim vote is going to one party or Muslim representation is lopsided, which is not the case. So I think it's a very positive development.
But Muslim other parties had also given, like say in UP, Mayawati had given to tickets to 19 Muslims besides 19 Brahmins. So she had given ticket to Muslims in UP also. But today in the press conference, in fact, she was direct and pointed out that Muslims did not vote for her this time, of her party this time, and that was one reason for her defeat. She, besides of course the other upper caste Hindus who also did not vote for them, but Muslims were one community which did not vote for her. If you, I don't remember the exact figure, but so most Muslims in UP voted for SP, and as you pointed out, she was yes in Bengal.
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected. Is Hello, Riaz?
Because the two.
Yeah, we can't hear you. So what if Mayawati said that? I haven't seen that statement. But I think the message from this election, especially UP, is that Muslims, as I say, have been totally marginalized. Their vote doesn't matter anymore, and Muslim may or may not have voted for BSP. We don't know, but that doesn't matter. And I think that's the significant message from this election, that there's definitely a consolidation of Hindu votes, and as you saw in UP, areas, as you saw reported from UP, that even Congress and Sapa workers were voting across party line to vote for BJP, and then you have Lok Jan Shakti Party of Ramvilas Paswan in Bihar, that upper caste voters were voting for Paswan. So I think that's what has happened. That is a big political shift that has taken place. That even if Muslim vote goes en bloc, which it doesn't, but it's still, if it goes en bloc to one party, still I think in most of the constituencies it wouldn't matter anymore. I think that's what the message. I mean, that's what I see it. What do you think, Riaz? Still not there. Okay. Anybody else wants to jump in and say what they are seeing in their area, or Arif? Hello, Sayyid Zia bhai. How do you see the
Hey,
Maharashtra election
uh,
results?
I can't get you. In fact, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What is the discussion all about?
No, we're just discussing the election
Hello.
result. Yeah, Riaz, you're back. We're just
Yeah,
discussing the
I'm sorry,
election result.
Kashif. I'm actually home and the network does not
I
seem to be
have,
good
I
here.
think,
Yes, yeah, bhai. So can you talk about the Maharashtra results?
Okay.
Was it along the expected line? Do you
Mm,
see a Modi wave in Maharashtra? And how big was that wave?
Signal is too weak.
I can hear you. Hello? Yeah?
Kash, Kashif
Yeah.
bhai, you want me to speak or?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Riaz. Yeah.
So about UP, as you pointed out, like if you remember my report from Farrukhabad, I had said how about Salman Khurshid, how even people who were campaigning for him
Right.
were secretly telling me that he's not going to win, and we saw that he came fifth. So that was his position. There was huge anti-incumbency. Like why this Modi wave, or now it has become turned into tsunami. There was huge anti-incumbency, especially post this anti-corruption movement of Anna Hazare. There was huge anti-incumbency, and Modi was the only leader who cashed into it. And his cocktail of Hindutva plus development agenda, and that clicked. So from UP to Bihar, like in remote places of say Vaishali district or Hajipur, Muzaffarpur, when I was traveling, and people who might not have ever gone even out of their districts, even they were talking about how good roads are in Gujarat, and when you ask them, have you seen the roads? Have you been to Gujarat? And they would say, no, I saw it on TV. So because of the way media worked in last 2 years, campaigning in a way for Modi, so that all really helped uh, create a notion as if there is really a Modi wave, and which actually happened. And there was, while on one hand there was this consolidation of Hindu votes. I mean, primarily upper caste votes, and also like some chunk of Dalit votes, maybe also a small portion of Muslim votes. Uh, but Muslim votes overall seemed confused and divided. That's what I report. Like I wrote an article from Delhi, how because of division in Muslim votes, Congress and other so-called secular parties are going to lose. Similarly, I noticed in Western UP, and the same thing I noticed in some of the districts that I travel in Bihar, from Hajipur, Vaishali, Muzaffarpur, even in Siwan, we noticed similar things. Um, there was like in Bihar, if we talk, Yadav and Muslims had consolidated, but Yadav and Muslims together they comprise on say 50%, 20%, 22%, 24% in each of these constituencies, and that impacted in a major way. And what happened? Like if I talk about Bihar, I was talking to Dr. Sajjad, Dr. Mohammad Sajjad, the historian from Aligarh Muslim University, and he was
Mhm.
repeatedly pointing out that uh, the way Muslims fear Narendra Modi, many upper caste Hindus in Bihar fear Lalu Prasad because of the misrule that was there in Bihar for 15 years. And the reason Muslims saw in Lalu Prasad a hope of countering BJP. But what happened in consequently that when Lalu and when Yadav votes and Muslim votes got together, that helped BJP mobilize and consolidate uh, upper caste Hindu votes, even Mahadalit votes, the core voters of JDU in many ways. When they saw that Muslims are deserting JDU, and so JDU candidates might not be in a position to win, and so they too, some of them, shifted to BJP on larger Hindu solidarity, all in the name of development, and also in Bihar because Ramvilas Paswan had allied with BJP. So all these helped consolidation of Hindu votes, although no one would want to call it, no one would see it in communal terms. They would want to say as if it was in the name of development. But we saw larger consolidation of Hindu votes everywhere across, even in Bengal, where BJP might have won just 2 seats, but they were successful in like in South Calcutta, where I'm sitting currently. Trinamool won, but BJP has come second. 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, one could not even imagine BJP uh, gaining such huge number of votes, except in some pockets. But we saw, like I can talk about South Calcutta because on the day of voting, I was here in South Calcutta.
Mhm.
So there were some Muslims who were voting for Congress, some again for CPM, and some for, of course, some for Trinamool Congress. So Muslim, even in here I saw like Muslim votes are, I don't know the exact percentage, but like they are significant. They have significant presence, and I saw it divided. Like I saw a Congress candidate was not very strong. She's only a councillor, but she got a good percentage of Muslim votes, and so as CPM, besides of course others, and that because of that Muslim vote division, and if BJP is getting say even 2 lakh votes in this constituency, although the margin is still over a lakh, but still that shows that there was some sort of Hindu vote consolidations. Like there are some Marwadis and Hindi speaking Hindus, and they appear to have largely voted for BJP this time, even in Bengal.
Right, but this is a myth, and I don't know if it's not supported by data that Muslim vote in bloc. I mean, to a certain extent, but it's not like all Muslims vote for one party. I mean, so recently I found out some research. I forgot her name from Yale University. She
Yeah,
surveyed,
Indian Express. I remember
yeah,
that.
2012 assembly election, and she found only 50% of Muslim voters in any constituencies are voting for Samajwadi Party. But that was also a wave that was going on for Samajwadi Party. But so they voted, but other half is voting for different parties, and so the confusion that you talk about was always there. It wasn't that Muslims plan or they listen to Ahmed Bukhari or somebody, and they follow whatever they're saying. There is definitely always a confusion among all voters, and Muslim vote is, because there are so many contenders for Muslim vote, is always they had different options to vote for, and they have selected among between Congress, Samajwadi Party, BSP in UP, and then they dropped Congress, and then they were going for Samajwadi Party and BSP. And you talk about the confusion in Bihar and West Bengal, but then largest number of Muslim
Even in UP,
MPs are coming.
even in UP,
Yeah.
UP
So
to a
so
large
UP,
extent there was
yeah,
confusion.
right. So UP, let's not talk about UP. Let's talk about West Bengal. So we have 8 Muslim MPs coming from West Bengal, uh, out of which 4 are from TMC, 2 CPM, and 2 from Congress. And if
Congress.
we talk about Bihar, so Bihar has 9 non-NDAs MPs, and out of 9, 4 are Muslim MPs. So so if you're talking about the confusion, even with the confusion, they were able to win in West Bengal, and Bihar Muslim MPs were able to win, but not win in UP. So that confusion has continued. So it's not the Muslim factor. The only thing is that Muslim factor, the myth that was there, didn't work this time, because, as you rightly said, it was because of the consolidation of Hindu voters behind Modi and BJP, and you can say that it was in the name of development. They can say that, but also I think a lot has to do with BJP, and also the personality of Modi and what he has been able to do, or what his image is among Hindu, what ideas he generates in among Hindus. I think that's important, and that has been success of the party. And even when we're talking about development, how Narendra Modi reacted when that Bihar leader Giridhar Singh, his statement, or Amit Shah's statement in UP, or Praveen Togadia's statement in Gujarat, and the reaction of Bharatiya Janata Party or its Prime Minister contender candidate Narendra Modi to those, gives you an idea of what kind of actual message going. There's a message in media of development, but how people read it, and what that means. I think that is critical, and that's what people have been missing. But I think that is the secret ingredient of this victory, and nobody can deny that. And look at how which what are the states where BJP has done well. why did BJP fail, in Tamil Nadu or Odisha? Of course, they are weak there, but
Give it 5 more years.
hello, who is this?
Sorry, I just said give it 5 more years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're working. They're working really hard in Kerala. They're working in other areas, and and the problem is that nobody is no force currently in India is ready to counter it. Even Congress had 10 years and they didn't work on it. Congress had 10 years to they actually, because of their incompetence, is Modi got this prize in the national politics.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Arif.
I mean, you
Yeah,
were
yeah, I
there on the
totally
ground. I
agree.
mean,
I
I,
totally
I
agree
saw
with you.
your, I mean, I was following your reports when you came to India and you went visited all those places. Didn't you get any feeling about what's happening on the ground? I mean, in terms of the
No, so,
groundswell.
right. So when I was going through, we didn't see any Modi wave. In fact, nobody was even talking about the election. I mean, very few people were talking about the election. It was very difficult to gauge anything in UP. But so I think 4 weeks later after my trip, when Reyes went there, and I think 2 weeks ago we talked about that, he was able to see that, there's definitely something going on at the ground. But at that time, I definitely didn't see anything there. It was maybe too early in the game, or if it was happening, it was happening at a very localized level, or something that was still not part of the discussion. So it was, and definitely I didn't see any. So the one thing that I saw was, a lot of Muslims were still okay with Samajwadi Party, which, I found it surprising. But, like Muzaffarnagar incident didn't affect them at all. So I saw that, as there's no confusion among Muslims who to vote, and it was a lot of it was driven by local consideration. The other thing I noticed was, even some of the BJP workers, they were not very happy with the candidates that they were given, their own candidates. But I think, by the time the polling came, I think, the polarization was complete. Amit Shah and, all the messaging that was going on, all the subtext of the thing, it worked. And I think that may have caused this, but definitely I didn't see 73 seats, BJP winning 73 seats. I mean, definitely
I mean,
not in my wildest dream.
should I continue? Just,
Yeah, yeah, go
if anyone wants to. I mean, something like this cannot happen overnight. I mean,
yeah.
this has gone on for a long time. I
Where
mean,
are you
at
from,
least 10,
Arif?
12 years. I mean, it
Arif,
can't,
where are you from?
sorry. Well, I'm from Bombay,
Okay,
Mumbai,
okay,
but currently in Abu Dhabi, currently in,
okay.
in the UK.
That's fine. I just
Yes.
wanted to know the background. So how? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm all over the place at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, it can't happen overnight. I mean, this has
Yeah.
to, the support at the ground and the work of the RSS. I mean, people talk about the Modi way, but I mean, the work on the ground by the RSS has to be. I mean, it has a lot of planning has to go on into this. It can't happen in a year. Modi was announced
Right.
prime minister candidate a year back, but I don't find it difficult to believe that this has happened since Modi. I mean, uh, this has gone.
So
Well,
are
this has
you
been
talking
planned
about?
for a long time. This campaign, this particular campaign,
Can I
the
Yeah,
consolidation.
can I come in here?
yeah. Go ahead,
Sure.
Riaz.
I think I can say, like, I would not want to reveal, but I know someone who works closely for the BJP in this election strategizing, and so and this has been reported in some section of the media. So of course the campaigns, like, I met this person around, I think around Jan or Feb, end of Jan or Feb, around that time. So because I remember it was still winter, and that time he told me that RSS has already chosen two representatives in each of the polling, like each of the polling booth. So each polling station, two representatives in the area that would come in that polling station. So two representative of RSS in it, they work on on these constituencies like they in entire all over the country wherever they contested elections. So their people, RSS people, two people were working very closely and they were following like each and every move. They all their preparations had ended around January, February. So what my friend from Abu Dhabi was saying about this cannot happen overnight. Of course, this did not happen overnight. They invested a large amount of money. In fact, if you read the latest issue of Caravan, so that says that quotes Mohan Bhagwat as saying that sometimes last year a meeting of all the like-minded journalists, senior journalists were convened, and where Mohan Bhagwat said that this is the golden opportunity for us. If we don't win this time, we may not be able to ever win again. And if we win this time, we may rule India for next 20 years. So of course, lot of planning went in. What is surprising to me that UPA government and Congress, of course, if I know of this, I'm sure they also have their own network and they were aware of all this. And still, they chose a leader which was seen as reluctant, very reluctant politician. I remember when this anti-corruption movement had started, and during that time, at Ramlila ground, there were slogans like "देश देश का युवा यहाँ है, राहुल गांधी कहाँ है?" So while on one side there was this leadership vacuum, on the other side there was Narendra Modi was presented as a strong leader, and RSS worked. They spread their tentacles across the country, from northeast in areas especially where they were weak. And my friend, one of my friend in the BJP told me like they had identified 200 constituencies where BJP had won at least once ever in history, and they especially concentrated on those constituencies to win back. And we like when Amit Shah was made made in charge of UP, many people mocked that the UP is not Gujarat and how system of Gujarat may not work in UP. But the result he has produced, we may not agree with their ideology, but one has to commend how whether we want to accuse him of inciting riots or whatever, but the fact is that he has shown result in Uttar Pradesh.
Right. I mean,
Kashif bhai,
yeah, I think of course, RSS cadres were always there in every election, and there's no secret that there's BJP is RSS child. But I think Atal Bihari Vajpayee, or to a certain extent Advani, also kept a certain distance from RSS, and they didn't let them control all of BJP. I think that's the major difference, that this time around RSS was in full control, and I think this
yes,
has happened after they lost the election, and then Vajpayee got sick, and then Advani was also sidelined. So that has activated the RSS cadre, or RSS the network, and they knew that this is the moment, this is the chance, and I think that's why. And in Narendra Modi, they see a leader that they can trust, and that he can drive their agenda. So I think that may have motivated him, and they worked really in a very organized way this time around, with the help of technology, but we also with the help of the huge grassroots network that they have. There's no organization in India now that is as strong, as widely spread as RSS, and have that many dedicated workers. So definitely, end of the day, it's not the social media that drives people to vote, but actually the network of volunteers that you have, who takes people to polling booth and deliver the votes. And I think that has made a difference in driving this victory of BJP. Uh, so but if you're talking about, so that's of course the preparation has been going on for some time now. But I think if you talk about polarization, which was also a factor, I think there's a lot of small level conflict is always going on between different communities in India all the time. That's not a surprise. But to be able to mobilize people based on that and to utilize that, with the rumor network and then mobilize it for electoral gains. BJP has been doing that for a while, but definitely now with this time around, especially with Samajwadi Party not being able to control these riots early on, this violence. In fact, it's not just Muzaffarnagar, but there's a lot of violence that happened all over. So it, hang on. So that I think that's also they were able to cash in on that. And if like Lalu Yadav or if it was West Bengal government that they were able to control these rights and all that, made the difference in also control growth of BJP. But in UP that didn't happen. So I think these factors were also important in this polarization.
Can I come in?
Who's this?
Natisha?
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you think
Can't hear you. Say it again.
if there were only two parties, XYZ, would had there been only two parties,
Yeah.
BJP, and would BJP have been able to
Yeah.
win this election considering the fact that only got 33 or 40%
Right.
of votes?
30% of the vote.
Yeah, since the majority is
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
against them.
Yeah. Well, I think majority votes. So are they voting against
Because
BJP or
because
more
uh,
voting for different options
because
that they have now?
the 60% of vote were like scattered.
But that doesn't really mean that they are against BJP, right? If there are only two choices, then people are forced to choose between one or the other party, right? So those votes can go to BJP. But since there are choices available, those votes are going to parties that people prefer or the candidates they prefer. But if it's only two party, I think BJP will benefit, and as we can see for example, in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, actually BJP prefers that it's a two-party system because it tells them it gives people no other choice but to vote for BJP. So even with the multi-party system, yes, we can argue that a lot of people are against BJP, but I don't think that's a correct assessment. A lot of people are against two major parties. We can say that they find better choices, smaller parties or regional parties or even independents rather than voting for Congress or BJP. I think that's a fair assessment. But if it's a two-party system, I think BJP will benefit from it, as we can see. In fact, not just benefit, but actually, control the whole thing. And it's just like there's no opposition in Gujarat, no opposition in Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan is the same thing. And I think that's very dangerous.
In fact, in states like MP and Rajasthan, to an extent in Gujarat also, places where there are two parties, we see that often, like say there would be Muslim groups or say they voted for Congress once and the Congress leader could not deliver. So next time, and because there is two-party system, there are instances of Muslims voting for BJP also in large number.
Right.
Like say for example in Rajasthan, last time two MLAs won from uh, BJP. So and in fact the district Nagaur, although the candidate was non-Muslim, and Nagaur district has sizable Muslim population, and similarly this Savai Madhopur, from where Azharuddin had contested, that constituency again has sizable Muslim populations. And in those constituencies, we see that in bipolar system, sometimes because they do not want to, there is anger also against Congress, so sometimes they tend to vote for BJP because of course BJP also has minority morcha, and their like Muslim leaders try to reach out to these people.
Do you also think
Yeah,
that
yeah, that's.
sorry?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Natisha.
I'm saying, do you think that had Priyanka Gandhi led the Congress team, they would have got a much better vote bank for them?
Yeah, I think that would have activated Congress workers a little bit more effectively
But
than Rahul Gandhi was able to do. I think they would have been more enthusiastic about it, and I think Priyanka has some connection. She can connect with people. I think what I have seen a little bit better than Rahul Gandhi. So I think that's my opinion that she would have activated. And after this election, I think who knows, she may come full time into politics. I
in
think
fact, earlier,
She has a package of her husband.
who's
in
this?
fact, earlier,
Yeah, go ahead. You're saying something, Arif?
I just said she has the baggage of her husband. I mean,
Yeah,
and
that's that's true. Yeah.
In fact, earlier there were talk of she might contest against Modi in Varanasi, but this time because there was so much of anti-incumbency, so much of because so Congress leaders, senior Congress leaders advised against it because that's their last what we say Tudukka Ikkar. So they did not want to test her this time. So Congress this time particularly refrained from bringing Priyanka Gandhi in front. So that's their last bet, which perhaps they will use, as Kashibai said, in maybe months to come or years to come, she might be more active in politics.
If Congress does a split by that time, that's also a possibility. What happens with Congress, and let's see. I think it's maybe a good thing for Congress.
can I come in?
Yes.
I mean, what happened to the Muslim vote in UP? I mean, has anybody analyzed? I mean, what happened in Moradabad and places? I mean, where usually Muslim MPs come from? What,
I visited Bijnor, Muradabad, Bareilly, Farrukhabad, so I can say about that pocket. And similar thing happened in Rampur and other constituencies. In fact, there are reports today in some of the papers today. What happened in those constituencies is that say these are Muslim dominated, like 40 to 30% of the population are Muslim. So candidate of Samajwadi Party, Congress, and BSP, besides some independents, they all were Muslims. So Muslim votes got divided among them. They had always been like Muslim candidates from these in these constituencies, but always what happened it was says either they voted either for Samajwadi Party or for BSP, or say in when it came to Rashid or this Burke Saab, Shafiqur Rahman Burke. So they voted for him whether he was in SP or BSP. This time there was confusion because of Muzaffarnagar riots. Although Muslims in large number voted for Samajwadi Party still, but still what I found there was like there was anger in a section of among us a section of the Muslims. And so Muslim vote this time got, especially in UP. In Bihar, we saw that they they consolidated around Lalu Prasad, but in UP, Muslim votes largely got divided among these three: Congress, BSP, and Samajwadi Party. Although major portion of them still voted for this Samajwadi Party. Similarly, in Varanasi, we saw Arvind Kejriwal getting. Arvind Kejriwal has come number 2, but Modi would have still won. I'm not saying that he might have lost, but had Muslims voted for Congress in Varanasi, the margin would have might have been lesser. So he has got Arvind Kejriwal has got around say 2 lakh 60, I think 2,60,000 plus votes, and so a large number of 70-80% of those votes. I would not be surprised if they might have been Muslims. So Muslim votes everywhere in UP, and that was somewhere the strategy of BJP. If you remember, people at that time took it very lightly and laughed it off. So Brahmanian Swamy in an interview long back to Aastak in Sidhi Baat had said that their strategy would be to divide Muslim votes and to consolidate Hindu votes. And I think they have succeeded largely in doing this. In fact, I was talking to this Dr. Mohammad Sajjad of Aligarh Muslim University last night, and he said that from MP to Rajasthan to Gujarat, wherever the BJP have come to power, and they have tried to make it a point to make Muslim votes irrelevant. And there is fear, like Kashibhai also pointed out this yesterday, there is fear that they might experiment similar things in UP by just dividing Muslim votes. So it's not that Muslim votes in block, but they have tended to vote strategically. And this time, that policy did not work. Clearly, it did not.
Yeah, I'm absolutely right. I think that has been the BJP's strategy, and in fact, it has worked, which is to make Muslims irrelevant. Before we saw all the parties going after Muslims and trying to, give them false promises that, give us vote and we'll give you this. And also the other factor was that, oh, if you don't vote for us, the BJP is going to win, and that's how, that has been Congress strategy for a very long time. So I see this as a positive light, right? Congress Muslim vote doesn't matter anymore. So that means now Muslims are free to vote without thinking about BJP. I think now they can make honest choices about which parties they want to support, and it could be even parties that they discuss with all the parties, and it could be a good sign for parties led by Muslims. So, for example, we see in Assam, for example, UDF of Badruddin Ajmal doing very well, and then we see Muslim League in Kerala, and then Majlis Ittihad al-Muslimin in Hyderabad. It could mean that in same thing may happen in UP, that Rashtra Ulama Council and Peace Party, a lot of Muslims didn't give them votes because they thought that if I give my votes to these parties, it will get wasted because we have to stop BJP for coming, and then I have to vote for the candidate who I think is going to win. So now that Muslim vote is liberated, so now they can do a positive vote rather than negative vote against BJP. And I see it in a very positive light. I think this will help in the political mobilization of Muslims, that will generate leadership amongst the community, and some leadership will emerge that is accountable to the community, connected to the community. And I see in the long run, of course, we have to suffer through for 5-10 years or more. But in the long run, I think it's a very interesting, a very significant development.
I don't know how successful so-called Muslim parties could be in places like UP and Bihar, um, because the situation in UP and Bihar is not as it is, say, in Kerala and uh, or Assam. In Kerala, there is another significant minority, that is MIM. We saw has been restricted to Old Hyderabad. In Kerala, there is another significant minority, which is Christians, and so Christian and Muslims, when they combine, then they can form a sizable vote. But in UP, if there is a party which takes vote in the name of Muslims, so we are only Muslims are only say 40%, 30%, or in a particular constituency, and so the rest of 50%, or what we saw this time in UP and Bihar. And if we try to mobilize Muslims in the name of Muslim, so there can be it can be counterproductive also. And like we saw this time, there can be consolidation in the name of Hindutva as well, which I don't think will work in UP or Bihar. And also because these parties do not have cadres, they do not have their cadres on ground, so it's difficult for them to, like this time. WPI I think I was reading somewhere, they have got 35,000 votes in whole of Kerala. So I don't know how successful.
No,
that
so
can.
so yeah, so the reason Muslim League or UDF or Majlis wins is, again, the critical factor is that Muslims know that my vote is not getting wasted by giving votes to these parties. And also, if you look at like, for example, UDF, uh, or even Rashtra Ulama Council or Peace Party in UP, they are not a religion-based party. Yes, they are parties led by Muslims, but their agenda is socio-economic development of Muslims as a social group, not as a Muslim as a religious group. None of these parties have on their agenda that they're going to rebuild Babri Masjid, unlike BJP that continues to talk about Ram Mandir. So it's not a religious agenda; it's an agenda for the socio-economic empowerment of Muslims as a community, as a social group, which is significant. Second thing is also they're not a religion party, which is one of the three parties that UDF won this time is a non-Muslim candidate. And I mean, we have not done an analysis, so we don't know how many non-Muslims are voting for these parties. But I think the Rashtriya Ulama Council was also trying really hard to not be labeled just as a Muslim party. These are Muslim-led parties, and I think they can have a future, and they will get carried when Muslims start trusting them, and when they know that their vote is not going to matter anymore. Then their vote will matter in the sense that then they'll start giving votes to these parties, giving them a chance to develop the leadership, giving them a chance to actually win local elections, and then that's what translates into then assembly elections and or parliamentary election. It's not going to be an overnight thing, like Aam Aadmi Party success in Delhi, which is a good thing. It's something that you have to work towards. So I don't see that is, and also as long as the messaging is clear, of course BJP will try to paint them as Muslim League of pre-independence India, and that's also always a some a danger that Muslim parties have to go through. But as long as the messaging is clear, I think I don't see any problem with that. And Muslim in India or any Muslim political party in India cannot succeed or go beyond a limit if they just talk about Muslim issues. So they have to spread that network or get successful beyond the limit. They have to talk about issues, and that's a change that we see even in Majlis Ittihad Muslimin in Hyderabad region. That one of the candidates, actually non-Muslim candidate, was I think was pretty close to even winning. So I think I see it as a positive development, and of course it depends on the parties. Like Peace Party has been a not very successful experiment even after winning few seats in the assembly election because they were not able to do much.
Good morning.
So, hello.
Hello. Salam alaikum.
Yes, walaikum salam. Go ahead.
How are you?
Okay. You have a question, sir.
Good. No questions. Where are you from?
All right. I'm gonna just mute you. Okay, Riaz. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that it will also depend on how BSP
Muslim.
and these parties, Congress and BSP, how they align themselves. Today only Sharad Yadav made a statement that they may try to forget the differences with and try to create some sort of secular front vis-a-vis Lalu Prasad Yadav. So it would also depend on how these so-called secular parties they try to counter Narendra Modi and BJP in coming future. Like say, not maybe not in next election, but if Congress and other parties lose in next election also in 2019, and then one may see all these parties coming together under some sort of front or alliance or whatever, just to defeat, like we saw once to defeat Congress, Janata Party was formed. So similarly, we may see some sort of loose front of all left to center parties coming together. We may see some sort of understanding in future. Maybe I don't know how viable that be. But if Sharad Yadav can talk of coming together once again with Lalu Prasad, then we can see similar movement. If we see similar movement in say UP of Mulayam Singh clan and Mayawati coming together, so that also will impact on these rise or development of these so-called Muslim parties, because then accordingly Muslims too will
Yeah.
try to adjust.
Yeah. I think as long as they're still talking about secularism, communalism, it's not going to, go anywhere. Because the only group that's concerned about secularism in India are the Muslims. So, if they are talking about, really defeating BJP and what they stand for, they have to come up with a better idea, a new idea governance in India. And Congress definitely had the ability and inclination to do what kind of growth we want in India, what kind of development. Is it going to be development where people are getting kicked out of their lands, their resources are being taken away, are given to big corporations where they have no say, or is it something like a nuclear plant, a new development comes in India, which displaces all the people and brings a future disaster closer to where people live and work, and it affects their livelihood. So that those are the kind of discussion that somebody should, these parties should talk about. What kind of development, what kind of progress we are talking about. If they just come on the basis of secularism and communalism, then it's a victory for BJP, because nobody in India understands what is secularism and why it's important to India. They have not been able to explain in the last 60 years, and I don't think anybody will be able to explain. And for most people in India, it doesn't matter. It affects Muslims, but even the definition of secularism, is not there in Hindi or local languages. It is a foreign concept for practical purposes in India. So if they have to, the game has changed, and other parties have to keep up with that change, and they have to use new language, they have to have new vocabulary to really counter this propaganda that's going on and where India is headed. And this is something that they have to learn. Old politics is not going to work anymore. Uh, you
I
know, uh,
can I say something?
yes,
I think it will also it also depends on how Muslim leaderships evolve with time, because um, uh, the tragedy is that Muslim leaderships and Muslim voters and Muslims have tended to vote only in the name of secularism or security. Muslims need to
right,
realize that they are also the citizens of the country. So fine, they
right,
will vote for so-called quote-unquote secular parties, but they will vote only if they get other issues, like say a Muslim dominated constituencies also needs water, also needs drainage, also needs roads. They need to you go to any place, you've been to Delhi's these so-called Muslim ghettos of Batla House, Jamia Nagar area, and when you came to Calcutta, I'm sure you visited these places like Topsia and Park Circus, and you'll see the difference. Like on one side, like I live in Khidipur, and there is a place in Khidipur, like on there is this road crossing, and one side of road is called Ibrahim Road, and the other side is called Monsatalla. So one side is Muslim area, the other side is Bengali Hindu area, and we see the difference. On like just if you stand on the crossing, and you will see this area would be on my right, which is the Ibrahim Road, tends to be dirtier, tends to be not maintained properly, but on the left side you see it cleaner roads, more peaceful, more planned. So even these Muslim voters need to, like, of course we'll vote, they need to tell their leaders and these parties that of course we'll vote for secular parties, but we'll vote for a particular secular party only if they regard us not just as a voting bloc but also as citizen, and give us rights which any other voters demand.
yeah, I think that's very important. And I think that's a change that definitely is happening among the Muslim community. And I think that's why the fascination from Aam Aadmi Party. It was not just that they defeated. I mean, I mean, as example, success of Aam Aadmi Party was at the expense of Congress in Delhi. But Muslim supported them, and I saw a lot of excitement among young Muslims about Aam Aadmi Party, because it was a different kind of politics. It was politics of something positive, and they were not talking about in the usual terms of Congress that we're going to give you this and this, but rather an empowering message. And I think definitely community, there is a change in community. They are thinking about it, but unfortunately, that leadership hasn't emerged from within the community, and also the parties are not yet ready for that. They are still stuck in their old mentality. So I think that's a change that's happening, which is a positive change.
I think we can conclude now. We can wrap
Kashif,
up.
may I come in?
Yes,
Kashif,
yeah, right. Yeah, go ahead.
Kashif, now that you are wrapping
Yes,
it
we
up,
can hear you. Go ahead.
let's tell you something. Uh, yes, yes, no, I can hear you also. I had very inconsistent network. That's the problem. So anyway, last thing that you said is the only relevant thing that is required. I mean, Kerala experience going.
Kerala what? Sorry, go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you anymore.
I think his call dropped.
Yeah. Nehal bhai, you want to say something? All right. Any last word from anyone?
Like, can I come in?
Yes, go ahead, Arif.
I mean, where do Muslims go from here? I mean, has anybody any points on it? And where do Muslims go from this? The politics has changed completely now. I mean,
Right.
it will never remain the same. As you have just said. I mean, you said that. I wrote a tweet earlier today. I don't know. My thinking was it's time for the religious organizations in the Muslim community now to come forward, basically. Take charge of the community, speak for the community.
Well,
Uh,
the religious leadership, is that what you're saying?
Religious organizations. I mean, I know. I mean, it's a bit of a.
I
uh,
think I do not quite agree. I don't know, but I think one tragedy of Indian Muslims have been that only religious organizations have
Yeah.
largely been representing Muslims.
Right.
That's one tragedy, I think, and I don't think that is the way forward. If religious organizations, with all due respect to our religious leaders, one tragedy has been one tragedy of the community have been that our religious leadership have largely failed us. We saw it in Bihar. We saw I'm not against Nitish Kumar per se, but what Nitish Kumar had done was made one cleric of Devandi ideology head of one say there are these larger groups like say Muslim Personal Law Board, and then you have Waqf Board, and you have other organizations. So he gave this Lal Batti and at times helicopter to these one from say Shia community, one from Devandi, one from Badelvi groups, and they were happy with that. They would never say anything against Nitish Kumar. Similarly, we saw post Muzaffarnagar riots. None of these religious leaders came forward. Even Madni Sahab, who they all come from Saharanpur area, and still they keep changing their stance. So I think religious leaders by and large have failed the community here in the country. And if a leadership has to emerge, it has to emerge from the middle class. From the educated middle class. I'm not against religious educations, but they also need to know the geopolitics, the socio-economic situations of the country. Our religious leaders tend to see everything in Yahudo Nasara ki sazish hai, or in India RSS ki sazish hai. They need to also understand larger socio-political issues. Yes, people like Badruddin Ajmal have been successful in Assam, but Ajmal has been successful not because he is a religious leader per se. He has been successful because like Dhubri is 76% Muslims. So one would not doubt if a Muslim leader wins from there. It's like Dhubri, there are not many districts in not many like Dhubri, there are not many districts in India. So I don't think that will work. I think I may not agree with the politics, but these parties like SDPI and welfare parties, they may not have got success, but what they have tried to do, they have tried to bring even Hindus and other backward caste votes, and they do not talk about religion. Uh, they talk about,
Kashif, may I come in?
like Kashibai was saying,
Kashif,
Hang
one
development and
on.
Riyadh
all.
finish, I want to come in.
Yeah, let us finish.
Once,
So development and all, and there
okay.
I remember Ismail reported from Hyderabad. There was this interesting when welfare party of state unit, Andhra Pradesh state unit of welfare party was launched. So they had to call these tribal folk singers and all, which were we all know that welfare party is supported by Jamaat Islami, but still they had invited these tribal singers, folk singers and all, and they were dancing and singing on stage with these welfare party leaders, and some of them of course are clerics sitting on dais, and these were they were singing, and like just to uh, just to uh, in a way create larger solidarity. So I don't think a Muslim organization based party would work, and I don't think if Muslim organizations come forward again, what this Madnis have been doing with the Congress, maybe we'll see another set of Madnis or by any other name doing it for the BJP or for XYZ. There are Muslim leaders who work for Samajwadi Party directly, and similarly we would in near future we'll see, like there was this Vajpayee Himayat Committee, you would see emergence of similar groups again, some Modi Himayat Committee or whatever. So I don't think Muslim religious organizations, like of course they have their own relevance and they need to work, but in politics I think there need to be politicians need to evolve from educated middle class people.
Yeah, good point, Riaz. Yes, Zia, go ahead.
Kashif, may I come in now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, just I want to extend from where this, in fact, he just bang on. What he's saying is right.
Yes, again frozen. So yeah, I mean, I agree with
I'm
Riaz.
kind of eager, at least 10 years down the line. Yes,
Go ahead, Zia. Zia, you need to get a better internet connection. So yeah, I agree with Riaz totally. Religious leadership can take you to a certain extent, but not beyond that. They have their limitations, and their world vision, and those limitations are guided by their world vision. So they cannot be successful. Their concerns are a little different, as Riaz mentioned. Nothing wrong with that, but it's limiting definitely. And I think, yeah, we definitely need educated, young middle class, young people to get involved of different groups, different regions. And I think that's what I talked about in my article yesterday. That we need a change in leadership. It needs to also get younger. We have all these organizations led by older people, like Majlis Mushawarat or Jamaat Islami, or all these organizations, and they have not been effective all these years. And the leadership should change and give it to people who make mistakes but learn from the mistakes and at least get something done. So I think we need smart people. We need our educated young people to get involved in community issues, get their hands dirty, get be part of the community. We cannot escape from reality. We have to find out what's happening in our community, mohalla, and be involved in our community and their issues. We have to talk about it, and we need to discuss and make plans. And as I see, when I mentioned that Muslim vote has become irrelevant, I see it as a good positive thing. That gives us a focus. We cannot now just वोट नेगेटिवली हमें सिर्फ बीजेपी के डरा के रखा गया है इतने सालों से. Now we can feel liberated and we can vote the way we want to vote, and think that will make difference in our life. And I think that's how the voting should be done. And I think this gives a lot of hope, a lot of scope for a change. But for the change to happen, we all have to get involved and do some serious work. It's not going to happen with us just sitting and talking, but we need to get involved. I mean, I think that's the only way out of this situation.
Zia Bhai is again there. We can just try one last time, I guess.
Yes, Zia bhai, sorry, you keep freezing. Yeah, go ahead.
I think we can wrap up.
Yeah.
We'll request him to maybe mail us. Yes.
and he said that AAP is the best. AAP is the best thing to have happened to India of late. So
Ziawai, maybe you can type in the chat window. Nihal, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was thinking that now it's probably time to back off. I think it's a very bad time for Muslims, and I think they should keep a low profile and not be too visible.
What do you mean by that?
What I've seen, in people that graduate from IIT and
Kashif, hello Kashif, this is
Yeah.
my last attempt. If it doesn't work, I will tweet you.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All I see is that I think I have made my point with regard to up. Want to kind of boil that was in the making, so it has burst. Let's hope that it has burst with only 33%. So hereafter there is revival. It is something of a kind of climax that has seen its end, and thereafter. So let's not be desperate. Convey positive message and try to convey it to as many people as possible. What you are suggesting is right, that at micro level we all should be involved, starting from our own nuclear family, then extending to parental family, and then extending to grandparental family. If there are many of us who extend to this much only, I think a lot of problem will be solved. So anyone who rises from that group should look back at parental family and then grandparental family. By that extent, many of us do, a lot of problem will automatically will solve. So leadership issue will also be solved, and people's readiness to forego claim. In our society, we have a major issue that everybody is leader. It is there in every society, but we don't compromise. Paraphrasing that those who are not like us, not all amongst us, or is something that he is not like us means he is not of us, or our community, or something like that. Not our like being out of touch with reality or so. This narrative has to be, I think, discouraged as much as it is possible. It is there. It is operating in every segment, even the Masjid Mohalla Committee, Mohalla Masjid Committee, and starting from Mohalla Masjid Committee to all levels. That he who is not like us is not one of us. This is a dangerous sentence that is detrimental to the interest of society at all levels. So this needs to be discouraged, and there's no reason to be desperate or depressed. It's a boil that burst. I think it was in the making. But the segment of society was deeply divided than what Modi can be expected of. The segment of society was more divided than Modi per se. So that segment of society has had his say. Hereafter, I think there will be restoration of. There will not be any further exacerbation of the situation. What has happened has happened. So it's, I think, it will be a step back. That's what I wanted to say.
All right.
based
Thanks,
on
Ziawai. Yeah, I'm glad that you didn't give up. You kept trying, which is also a message for the Muslim community. Don't give up. Keep trying.
Yes.
Okay, Nihal, back to Nihal, because I think he's saying something important. So go ahead, Nihal.
Yeah, I think there's there is a lot of talk about this being an anti-Congress vote rather than a pro-BJP vote. That is, I don't think that's true. I think there was a lot of pro-Modi vote. What I saw.
I think it's combination of both. So you cannot just.
Yeah, go ahead, Nihal. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I have seen in my peers and my friends is a lot of them really bought into the development argument. And when I brought up the issue of riots and his close connection with RSS, they said, oh, well, when you have a bad boy in class You make him the class head or the monitor, and everything is fine. Now, I mean that might work in a class, but it may not work in a university. And also, what I've seen is the Indian elites for the last 10 years or so after 9/11 and all that have slowly become more communal. I know people like Siddhartha Shankar Rai.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
His
Oh.
brother's son was my classmate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know another person who was the classmate of Manmohan Singh. He's a professor that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, these people have a very deep-seated prejudice against Muslim. I mean, these are intelligent people, so they don't show it.
Right.
But when you talk about, say, Mughal Empire, you can see that they would, by default, take the opposite stance. They cringe when you talk about the achievements, art achievements, and all the other things of the Mughal
Right.
Empire. Now, why is that important? It's important because it shows that the elite have sort of decoupled themselves from the old history. If you talk to people 20 years ago or 10 years ago,
But Nehal, that is certainly true that people are more communal now, and it's more out in the open.
I think
It's
that
not
is true,
hidden
Kashif bhai.
anymore. But the point you were making, or the argument that you were saying, is that Muslims should keep low, and I don't understand why we should have a low profile.
I think we have a lot of work to do at home before we get out.
Well, why can't it go hand in hand? I mean, I don't understand why we have to give up on. I mean, so what BJP or the Hindutva ideology, what they want is Muslims to be invisible. I mean, that's what's happening in Gujarat, to be marginalized and not be visible. I mean, if we keep a low profile, that means we're giving them this space. I mean, this is our country,
That
and we have to fight for it. And I mean, we have a lot of cleaning up to do at our home, of course, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be out there visible and fighting the good fight. I mean, which is the right thing to do.
we do, but we pick our battles. We don't, um, if we expose ourselves too much, then this narrative of appeasement, people have the impression that Muslims want to punch above their weight.
No, which
Um,
means that our messaging is not going through. Which means we have to be active and tell them that what appeasement are you talking about? Which is
but
the reason for
how?
this thing is that
Where?
there's a group that's very active in spreading their propaganda, their messaging, and we are not there to counter it. That means we have to be more actively involved and show them the reality of things. That this
Right,
is
but
how
through
it
what media?
yeah, so media, for example, social media, being in the media, and having these conversation not only in the cyberspace but also out there in the social sphere. We have to get our community open, invite the other community members of other communities to come and visit our places, visit our masjids, visit our madrasas, visit our institutions, and see what's really happening. Why is it different? Is it just Muslims गंदे रहते हैं? हमने यही सुना है. Or is it that the administration is not doing the job it's supposed to do because there's a built-in discrimination against Muslims? So for that,
No, on that I agree. If you have to invite people to the masjids and all that, that is definitely true. But politically, by policy
Can
making and all that,
can I respond to Kashif? Can I respond to Nihal?
Neha, did you make your point?
I want to hear what.
Kashif,
Okay, go ahead,
can
Zia.
I respond to Nihal?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kashif,
We can't hear you.
I think Google cut him off.
All right. So yeah, I mean, Nihal, there need to be different
This
ideas.
is
I'm not saying
32% of
all
our
my ideas are the
total.
correct ones. So I'm glad that you are presenting.
I
Uh, Ziaba, you're coming in between, and I think we should wrap up. It's been more than an hour, and I think we should continue this discussion. But let's wrap up.
Okay.
Let me
All I
stop
just
the
wanted to
broadcast, and
say,
we can
you
do
should not
maybe
get so
after
discouraged.
stopping the
All I just wanted to say, you should
yeah, we shouldn't discourage. I see it. A lot of things to be done. Which is, let's think about it. A lot of positive things can come out, as Maulana Muhammad Ali said, "Islam zinda hota hai har Karbala ke baad." So we are not saying that we are asking for a revival of Khilafat or anything. But what I'm saying is that we need to get active. All right, thank you everyone for participating.